Tonight, a passenger plane making an emergency landing bursts into flames, killing dozens on board. What happened moments before the crash?
It's bittersweet.
A controversial call, a disqualified front-runner, and a dark horse in the winner's circle. The aftermath of a historic Kentucky Derby.
This is much more serious than Watergate.
And he's reported on the biggest stories of our time, but he's never seen his country like this.
Good evening.
Dan Rather is our Sunday interview. This is The National. What should have been a routine flight out of Moscow turned into a deadly nightmare today. A plane became an inferno during an emergency landing, trapping some of the 78 passengers on board. At least 40 people died, 2 of them teenagers. Chris Brown is in Moscow tonight and takes us through what we know so far.
Its entire tail section ablaze and the rear landing gear apparently collapsed. Aeroflot flight SU-1492 tore down the runway in a fireball. From inside, terrifying footage that captured the panic and screams of those who could feel the fire and heat closing in on them, frantic to get out. When the plane finally came to a stop, passengers jumped for their lives down escape chutes. Some, it appeared, even managed to grab their carry-on luggage. The first report suggested everyone got out safely, but given the ferocity of the fire, that was too much to hope for. Security camera footage on Russian TV showed the Sukhoi 100 Superjet coming in fast and hitting the runway hard. It bounced into the air, and the fire started after the plane's tail struck the ground. Tracking data shows the pilot reported an escalating series of problems. 8 minutes in, the crew said the radio wasn't operational. Then, after 22 minutes, they declared a full-blown emergency before finally landing back at Sheremetyevo 26 minutes after takeoff. Russian state media have not reported an official cause of the crash, and there are dueling narratives that the problems may have started with a lightning strike or an unrelated electrical malfunction. In Soviet times, Aeroflot was one of the most notorious airlines in the world, but in the decades since, its safety record has been exemplary. The Superjet is one of the very few Russian-built aircraft Aeroflot flies, but it's had a troubled history. In 2012, one Superjet slammed into an Indonesian volcano, killing 45 people in a crash that was blamed on pilot error. More recently, production problems and a lack of spare parts have kept many aircraft grounded. This crash will prompt new questions about the Superjet program. Aeroflot says the aircraft was new, less than 2 years old, and had just completed its regular maintenance certification. Chris Brown, CBC News, Moscow.
So the plane had been checked out. The company says the pilot had some 1,400 flying hours on this craft. So what happened? Well, we reached out to a pair of aviation experts for their take on the circumstances and the investigation, starting with Keith Mackey. He's a former pilot turned air safety specialist, and he walks us through that dramatic video.
I've never seen a fire that big that was uncontained, and it was totally uncontained. And if you look closely, the tail looks a little low, the nose is high. The fire is coming primarily from under the wing, and it's spreading back, covering the tail. By the amount of fire I see, it would appear likely that when the gear collapsed, it likely ruptured a wing tank. And the fuel flowing out of the wing tank was what made the huge fire that we see. Found in that jet exhaust, doesn't take very much to cause the ignition necessary to make the fire that we see.
And what about the people inside during all of this? Mary Schiavo is a former Inspector General for the U.S. Department of Transportation. She says with a fire that fierce, some of the standard emergency protocols and equipment would not have helped.
That smoke is pretty deadly. Obviously, the oxygen masks on the plane don't do anything for you. In fact, oxygen masks in a fire are even worse. Those don't filter out the smoke. They just deliver oxygen to you. So usually what kills some people, sadly, regrettably in a plane fire, those on board, is smoke inhalation and heat. Heat is very deadly to the head. That's why they tell you to get down and get out in a fire. But in emergency evacuation, you can't get down. You have to get up and run to the exit doors as fast as possible.
And the biggest question of all, what was happening at the front of the plane?
Certainly the conversations going on in the cockpit would be of great interest, as well as the radar track to see what the crew did, their radio transmissions, how they described the emergency to the ground. We may never learn what that was because this happened in Russia with a Russian airplane, and we won't have the normal investigating channels at work as we would have had the accident happened in the United States or in Canada.
And another big question, do you now ground that type of plane? Russian officials say that would be premature. Okay, Adrian, you're tracking huge developments in the Middle East.
Yeah, indeed. You have Israel and militants from the Gaza Strip filling the air with bombs, artillery fire, and hundreds of rockets. Now, those rockets from Gaza, sometimes intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome missile shield, and then the shattering response from Israel, airstrikes leveling buildings. The results on the ground this weekend, frightening and fatal for people on both sides. More than 20 Palestinians are dead, at least 4 Israelis are. And as Paul Hunter tells us, this brought a region to the brink.
Relentlessly, all weekend, rocket attacks into southern Israel and counterstrikes from Israel into Gaza. All of it painfully violent and depressingly familiar. Still, it's the most intense fighting in that region in months. And for the first time since the 2014 Gaza-Israel war, among those killed today were Israeli civilians, including a 58-year-old father of 4. The dead on the Gaza side was a mix of militants and civilians, including yesterday a 14-month-old girl and her pregnant aunt. Also, for the first time in years, there was a separate targeted airstrike by Israel, killing a senior Hamas commander. Massive strikes will continue, said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. Forces at the Gaza border, he added, will be stepped up. This latest fighting follows Palestinian complaints Israel wasn't acting quickly enough to ease its economic blockade on Gaza. On Friday, gunfire from Gaza wounded 2 Israeli soldiers, and the violence escalated from that. But many now also worry about the timing. National and religious commemorations are coming up on both sides, and Israel will soon host the Eurovision Song Contest, bringing with it tourists and worldwide attention. But some underline the key to what happens next may well be how Israel now responds to its civilians being killed. Pressures on the Israeli government to intensify its reply,
which is escalate the airstrikes and, more worrying, threaten surgical ground assaults across the border. Once that happens, you could have pointless fighting on both sides that will go on for weeks.
But tonight, even as Israeli tanks were spotted heading toward the Gaza border, reports of a possible ceasefire agreement. Details are scarce, but potentially it's a way out for all sides. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
The Middle East violence was not restricted to Israel and Gaza this weekend. Today, airstrikes hit a hospital in Syria's rebel-held Idlib region. Now, as a Russian-backed government offensive there just ramps up.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Dozens have been killed in the recent fighting. It's the heaviest in months, and it sparked fears Damascus could move to retake Idlib. It's run now by a variety of rebel groups, the most powerful linked to al-Qaeda, but the province is also a refuge of last resort for fleeing civilians. Its population now double what it was before the civil war began. The fear now is that a full offensive in Idlib will put hundreds of thousands of civilians in the line of fire with just nowhere to go.
Now to the latest on the flooding along the Ottawa River and some relief today as the waters recede. It's good news, but as you'll see, it also exposes yet another problem. Olivia Stefanovic takes us there.
What we're seeing here is my house in chaos.
The water is finally out of Dave Mackay's house, but the damage is just starting to reveal itself.
There's a watermark right there. So at one point, it was probably 30 centimeters above the floor.
Tens of thousands of dollars in repairs are needed, and outside,
the water's just right underneath us.
It actually, as we stand on it, it starts to seep up onto the upper surface of the boards.
the Ottawa River still surrounds his property.
What about moving?
No way.
Across the river, the Quebec government is offering up to $200,000 to get people living on floodplains to move. But buyouts aren't being offered in the Ottawa area. The city says it can't afford it, and the province hasn't announced any incentives, leaving it up to homeowners to figure out what to do with their properties.
They should be looking at how structured defenses, physical structures that right now are sandbags, can be put in place permanently to direct water to safe locations the next time the big flood comes along.
The water is slowly receding, but it's clear the threat that it poses isn't gone yet.
A second crest of the river could still come if there's lots more rain.
Well, I'm waiting to rejoice because it could still go wrong.
This wall is all that stands between the swollen river and Tom Jones's house. He remains optimistic.
I'm trying to take a glass half full attitude, so a glass half empty might be, we've had to do this twice now in 3 years, I'm out of here. Another view would be to say, well, look, we're so lucky to be here, fortunate beyond words, and we only have to keep the water away twice, once every 2 years.
Even if the worst is over here, water levels upriver near Renfrew, Ontario could rise another 40 centimeters. No one is letting their guard down just yet. Olivia Stepanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
So, not in the clear, and the question still on the table, how to fix the damage? Won't be easy. In homes that can be salvaged, almost everything touched by the water is being torn out, thrown out, and in this community near Montreal, some houses will have to be torn down. 2,500 homes were evacuated when a natural dike ruptured a week ago, something they're still trying to fix.
Now to a Go Public investigation. 2 young Ontario brothers share a devastating genetic disease that makes breathing difficult, but only one is getting potentially life-saving medication. Rosa Marcatelli now on what's keeping people away from the drugs they need.
That's 6-year-old Joshua with the glasses and his 8-year-old brother Andre. Both have a fatal genetic disease, cystic fibrosis, that attacks their lungs. Only Andre has access to a potentially life-saving medication. He got into a long-term drug trial for one of 3 gene-modifying drugs. Only a few Canadian kids got in. His little brother didn't.
When I put them to bed at night and I hear Andre go to sleep peacefully, and then I hear Josh laying awake in his bed coughing himself to sleep.
Few patients can afford the $250,000 a year price tag, and few provinces cover the cost of the drugs. The provinces that do put severe restrictions on who qualifies. In Ontario, less than 2% of pediatric patients do. No adults.
1, 2, 3, blow.
About 4,200 Canadians have cystic fibrosis. Unlike a lot of other countries, Canada doesn't have a special process for evaluating drugs for rare diseases.
Well, it's a heartbreaking situation.
Critics say that testing criteria is built only for drugs that treat more common illnesses and can hold large trials.
We can't do that in small populations. And so often when our evidence goes to the table for government to look at, they say there's not enough evidence.
Absolutely shameful.
Then there's the price. Chris McLeod is the lawyer heading up a class action in BC over access to one of the drugs, Orkambi. He says that $250,000 is just the sticker price no one actually pays. But Canada hasn't bothered to negotiate.
We're the only developed country that is not, either doesn't have a deal or isn't negotiating a deal.
Minister, Maddie Van Stone is a very courageous girl. But as courageous as she is, she needs your help. She needs your help to get access to a life-saving drug.
That's Christine Elliott when she was opposition health critic in Ontario, pushing for coverage of one of these drugs. As health minister, she has not expanded coverage, saying the government is continuously reviewing evidence that supports funding of new medications.
We have a medication right now that half the population could benefit from, and we're not getting access to it.
The drug company, Vertex Pharmaceuticals, didn't say why the cost is so high. Cystic Fibrosis Canada says it's often because developing medications for rare diseases is so expensive and the market is so small. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
And if you happen to have a tip for the Go Public team to investigate, please send them an email at gopublic@cbc.ca.
And here are some of the other stories we're watching tonight on The National. North Korea's state media put out these images today showing Kim Jong-un supervising tests of long-range rocket launchers and what looks like a new short-range ballistic missile. His message to his troops, keep a high alert posture. But this was likely also a message to the U.S., frustration over stalled diplomatic talks. Washington, though, says it does not see this as a direct threat.
We still have every intention of negotiating a good resolution with North Korea to get them to denuclearize. We've known it would be a long path. We've known it wouldn't be straightforward.
You may recall Donald Trump walked away from his last summit with Kim in February, saying North Korea wanted all sanctions dropped, this despite refusing to give up its nuclear arsenal. And back here at home, a strange sight in downtown Toronto, a skydiver coming in for a landing yesterday. Erica Lewin was on her balcony when she captured this footage. Police went looking for the parachutist, couldn't find him or her, but they say a witness told them the skydiver did not seem to be hurt at all.
The fallout from the Kentucky Derby is still angering people tonight, even the U.S. president. This weekend's Derby made history, and not in a good way, when the winning horse was later stripped of the honor.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Some things are just given about the Kentucky Derby. The hats, bigger all the time.
Millions of dollars at stake.
And the money, also huge. A record $200 million bet on the race.
He doesn't lose. He's a perfect 4 for 4.
Initially, smart money decreed an undefeated horse named Maximum Security would win.
They're off.
And as the muddy mayhem began, all looked like it was going according to script.
Maximum Security wins the Kentucky Derby.
Maximum Security crossed the line first. The jockey was celebrated.
Congratulations, Louise. You did it, man.
Lucky winners were just waiting for their cash when it happened.
Hold on tickets. There's a rider's objection in this race.
A rare objection. The three race stewards retreated to a tiny room above the track to look at every angle of what happened in the last turn of the Derby. And here's what they say they saw. Maximum Security coming off the rails, jumping a puddle it seems, and getting in the path of several horses. Enough interference apparently to retract the win. This has never happened.
Maximum Security disqualified from first.
The disappointment for Louis Saez.
Maximum Security no longer the victor.
Country House.
Country House, suddenly the Derby champion. 65-1 chance of that happening. One of the longest odds ever to win the Derby. Its jockey, more than a little stunned.
Well, it felt pretty good actually. No, it's a great moment. I mean, it's a dream come true.
Bettors, really.
You thought you had just won a bunch of money? Yes.
Country House's trainers regaled, but a bit sheepish, almost apologetic for winning.
It's bittersweet. You know, you always want to win with a clean trip.
That's understandable. Reaction has been harsh, especially from the White House. The Kentucky Derby decision was not a good one, Donald Trump wrote. Only in these days of political correctness could such an overturn occur. Now that's a curious accusation, but expect more heat to come. Maximum Security's owners are considering legal action. This is not over yet.
I hope Hollywood's taking notes on how to write a good script.
Exactly.
Okay, ahead on The National. The Sunday interview with Dan Rather. Hear his thoughts on Donald Trump and the stories that keep him up at night.
First, though, when a gunman opened fire at a synagogue in California, he tried desperately to save others.
I heard a shot. When I heard it, immediately I threw my grandson to the floor and I covered him with my body.
Saving lives is something he's all too familiar with, something I learned about him more than a decade ago.
No, come. Run.
His story of being trailed by trauma, next on The National. this time last weekend, the terrible details were emerging of the people who'd been caught up in the synagogue shooting in Poway, California, another house of worship struck by terror. You can lose sight of the names and the individual stories in a blur of blood, but one name from the synagogue stood out for us here at the National, a man described as acting heroically, Shimon Abitbol. Now, coincidentally, we spent time together back in 2006 when I was a correspondent in the Middle East. It was a violent day then, in some ways not unlike the violence of this day in that region. But what was he doing in California? Why was Abitbol in that synagogue? We had to find out what happens when trauma trails you.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Wow.
Hi there, Shimon. How are you? It's been a while, about 13 years since we talked.
When we saw each other, huh?
I know, a long time. An Israeli, Shimon Abitbol, has news.
You must see something.
Okay.
And this is 3 weeks grandson.
Oh. A proud dad and grandfather showing off his family in California. He'd been visiting from Israel for Passover, for the birth of the baby. Hi. Has so loved going to California, to Poway, California in particular.
I came to visit and I feel I'm in heaven.
Sing it out.
This is a beautiful place, beautiful country.
It is. It was. Abitbol was there at the Poway synagogue on the last day of Passover with his grandchildren when it happened.
It's the last day of Passover. The man with an AR-style rifle walked in and started firing.
I heard a shot. When I heard it, immediately I threw my grandson to the floor and I covered him with my body. And when he just want to scream, I put my hand on his mouth.
Abitbol is unfortunately no stranger to violence. Part of why he calls life in California heaven, why visiting represents peace and calm and safety, is because of what he leaves behind when he travels there. He's a medical director for Magen David Adom, the ambulance service in Israel. He's dealt with terrorism, accidents, trauma, and war. In July of 2006, over 1,000 Katyusha rockets fired by Hezbollah showered onto the city of Kiryat Shmona, where he lived and worked. That's where we first met.
It's okay, they're going to give him a low, but
he was always finely tuned to danger. In the middle of an interview then, suddenly hearing the distant whistles of incoming rockets.
No, come. Run!
As they crashed into factories and houses, Abitbol was on alert, in work mode. But in the synagogue, he was on vacation, at rest, and time moved differently. On the floor with his grandson, he looked up and saw a friend helping his 5-year-old granddaughter escape. In a pause in the shooting, as the gunman's rifle was jamming, he helped get the kids to safety. And then Abitbol, the granddad, became Abitbol, the combat medic, running to the side of Lori Kay, who'd been shot in the chest.
Get down on the knees to start CPR, and this time comes someone and lay down on his knees, and I saw his eyes is very red and full tears, and he says, "Shimon, she's my wife. He killed me at this moment."
Kay's husband is a trauma doctor, but neither he nor Abitbol could save her. The rest is a swirl. Memories of the rabbi, shot in the hands, yet incredibly trying to calm everyone.
So please.
Some media interviews.
Are you shaken up just at what happened yesterday?
More dizzying moments. That he'd have to worry about trauma with his family hadn't occurred to him. That he'd ever need his training like this hadn't occurred to him.
anti-Semitism in bucolic Poway, California, hadn't occurred to him.
I can't imagine how some evil from this heaven place going to be evil.
He's gone home now to Israel, intact physically, but changed, to be sure. Trauma and terror have trailed him.
So I can tell you that we only spoke a few days ago, but he said, look, Adrian, the adrenaline is still just completely coursing through me. He has some time to recover.
And Adrian, I mean, it's hard to get a read on him. Does he feel lucky that he has survived, or does he feel cursed?
I think it's a terrible combination of the two, knowing that he's okay, his family's okay, but this isn't okay. He knows enough about post-traumatic stress disorder to know that one day he's going to have a conversation with his grandchildren, and he's going to have to be direct with them, and it's going to be hard.
What a story. Adrian, that's amazing stuff. Stay with us, folks. Up next on The National. Still to come, he's one of the world's best-known journalists. Dan Rather is our Sunday interview. He and I spoke about the stories that keep him up at night, why he's worried about the future of his country, and this.
New York City developer Donald Trump says he wants to be President of the United States.
Did you take him seriously at the time?
No.
We live in a time of sudden change and heated debate. Politics, identity, race, who belongs. There's a lot of noise out there. But as respected veteran American journalist Dan Rather points out in our Sunday interview, this is certainly not the first period of upheaval of its kind, and it probably won't be the last.
It appears as though something has happened in the motorcade route.
A man named Lee Harvey Oswald.
Dan Rather has covered some of the most important news events of our time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dan Rather with CBS News.
He's been a reporter, a correspondent on 60 Minutes,
and that's the way it is,
and replaced the legendary Walter Cronkite when he became the face of CBS Evening News.
Good evening.
Freddie, how much copy you got there?
He anchored for an astounding 24 years. And it was a career that could very well have ended when he was removed from the anchor desk over a story that pitted his reporting against the Bush administration.
And to each of you,
but he was defiant then,
courage,
and certainly hasn't stopped telling stories since. Today, he's got a lot to say about the state of American politics, and his latest project is called Human Nature.
Should you be allowed to make a genetic change into the next generation that'll then go on to other generations?
It's a documentary about a scientific breakthrough in genetic engineering.
As this field advances, people will be able to order a change in their genetic makeup to create an outcome of interest to them.
I met up with Dan Rather in Toronto. Mr. Rather, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I guess safe to say, you feel very strongly that gene editing may be one of the most important developments of our lifetimes. I mean, tell me why.
I don't think I've ever covered anything that has the potential to be as far-reaching and as consequential as this breakthrough, scientific breakthrough.
Well, I mean, was there a moment, though, or a milestone that the technology had surpassed that made you kind of stop and take notice and think, this is a sort of a holy crap level of technology?
Well, that's exactly what it was a holy crap moment. Now, I want to emphasize this is still in its infancy. And one of the reasons we made the film, we need to start having a conversation about this now as we move from the very first front edge of discovery to the full potential of this. I mean, doing away with all kinds of diseases is possible, even somewhere in the distant future, cancer. The upside is terrific, fantastic, but there are some downsides to it.
There was a particularly striking moment of clarity in the film. And funny enough, of all places, it came from Vladimir Putin.
Изменение человеческого кода, если человек страдает генетическими заболеваниями.
He's talking about the medical applications, the potential for good. But then he says there is another part. that, look, this has the potential to change the course of humanity's development, but this may be more terrifying than a nuclear bomb.
Ядерной бомбы.
That is a hell of a thing for a guy to say, especially one who actually has a nuclear arsenal at his disposal.
You know, I'm smiling because I'm glad you said that. If we don't have the conversation now, and the conversation has to be with scientists, but much broader than scientists. Society as a whole has to decide, do we need to regulate this? And how do you do that? This is the conversation we need to be having with ourselves right now.
But are Americans ready to have that conversation?
I hope so. That's the best I can say.
You know, as we talk about this, which is a massive issue in scope and importance, and the backdrop, which is the world, and I think because I'm speaking with you, someone who has a lot of experience in American politics, but also American sensibilities. If I could ask you, just sort of in a broad sense, what is happening in America right now?
We're going through a very difficult period, a very perilous period of transition that started in 1965 when we reformed our immigration laws. We expanded that into open immigration around the world. Now, as a result of that, we are a significantly different people now in terms of demographics that we were. We're a greater mix. I personally think we're much better for it. But because our demographics have changed so greatly, the culture itself has changed, and this scares a lot of people. And the fright that has produced, the fear that has produced, has those of us who are Americans asking ourselves the questions now of who are we, what are our core values, what is it we believe, and that's now being decided.
And how does the man at the top, Donald Trump, fit into that?
Well, Donald Trump recognized that so many people had fear, deep-seated fears. Many of them would never express these fears. Many of them tried to cloak their fears about what they see as the rapid change in the culture of the society and the democratic makeup. And he has sought to, and so far succeeded to a certain degree, in exploiting those fears. And because he is not a president who defends our institutions, he attacks our institutions. He attacks the courts, he attacks the other branches of government, and he attacks the press, not just individual press people or press organizations, but calls everybody in the press, quote, enemies of the people. That's where he fits in.
I ask you about Donald Trump because you have, I think, a particular insight into the kind of person he is, and that's through your work. And so I actually just want to show you something, and it's a piece of reporting that you did.
All right.
This is from 20 years ago, thanks.
I remember the piece very well.
You remember the piece? So I just want to show you just the first part of this.
If there would be a poster boy to represent America at the turn of the millennium, the celebration of celebrity, the rich almost reeking of prosperity, continuing proof that the American dream exists, then Donald Trump's picture might best fill the frame. His name is on buildings, his face is in magazines and newspapers. Both are on the covers of 3 previous books, all bestsellers, and now he's coming out with a 4th. But this time, he's not talking only about his prowess to make millions of dollars. Now, he is also talking about his hope to win millions of voters. That's right. New York City developer Donald Trump says he wants to be President of the United States.
Well, that was a piece that I did for 60 Minutes.
Did you take him seriously at the time?
No. I didn't take his running for president seriously because our reporting revealed that what he was really doing at that time was selling golf club memberships and condominium apartments. It was part of his a giant publicity campaign for him. Now, there wasn't any doubt in my mind that he was thinking maybe long run running for president. But I will say that I never thought at that time that even at some future decade where Donald Trump, if he was to run for president, that he would come anywhere close to winning.
In your career, you've covered the Nixon presidency, I think of a crisis like Watergate. And I wonder, I mean, you've seen how something like that can rip a government apart. It can rip a nation apart. And so when you see the current storyline, Donald Trump, the Muller investigation, how do you see that?
Well, this is much more serious than Watergate. Watergate involved crimes that were domestic crimes, Americans against Americans, the president undermining the Constitution. In the case of what's going on now in our country, and one reason I say it's a dangerous time for America is the factor of the foreign power. It is a fact, and the Mueller investigation just underscored, italicized, put in great big headlines the fact the Russians mucked around in the American election. Now, whether President Trump or anybody else around him was directly involved, Mueller said he didn't find evidence of that whatsoever. The reason the crisis that we're going through now, and I think it's fair to say we are in crisis, is because we have the factor of the outside power.
Does it make you angry? You talk about it in such measured tones. I mean, simultaneously emphasizing the gravity of the situation, but with an attitude that suggests, I've seen this before.
Well, nobody has seen anything like this before in my country. Does it make me angry? Yes, it does make me angry. But more than angry, I'm very worried about the country now. That I'm an optimist by nature and by experience. And I also know, having been graced with a long life and knowing what I know about history, that we Americans have been through a lot before. People say this is the worst it's ever been. Well, the Civil War, when we lost 700,000 dead in the Civil War, was a tough time. The Great Depression was a tough time. We've been through tough times before, but this one is different. This one feels a lot different, partly because of the people we have become. We're much more racially, ethically, religiously diverse than we've ever been in our history. We have to steady ourselves, and we have to dig deep back into our history, remind ourselves of what unites us. We still have core values that unites us. But I'm optimistic for the long pull. In the short and medium term, I think it's going to be pretty tough.
Mr. Rather, thanks so much for your time.
Thank
it was
you
wonderful
very much.
to
I
chat.
appreciate it greatly. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Up next on The National, the debate over whether Vancouver Island really needs a new sewage treatment plant, and that debate is a bit of a colorful one.
I thought, yeah, that's what we need, a big walking, talking, dancing piece of poo.
To really illustrate the point.
Yeah, for sure. You can't ignore a 7-foot-tall turd.
So, after years of debate, planning, and appearances by a mascot named Mr. Floaty, and make of that what you will, construction on a new wastewater treatment plant on Vancouver Island is just about done. It's scheduled to open next year, so ordered by the federal government. But, as Briar Stewart shows us, even now, not everyone is convinced this is even needed.
Along the coast in Esquimalt, BC, a nearly $800 million wastewater treatment plant now finally under construction.
I think there was actually a bit of a hurdle that we had to overcome because it had been talked about for so long.
Officials say there was some initial confusion over what exactly was being proposed because a treatment plant had been debated here for decades.
And I think there's a lot of residents that understand the importance of the project and will feel a great deal of pride in the project for generations to come.
In the new plant, wastewater will be treated in 3 stages. Even contaminants like pharmaceuticals will be removed. It's seen as a big step up from what's happening now. The area's sewage is currently screened. Anything larger than 6 millimeters is removed. It's then pumped into the ocean.
I mean, do you want a brown ocean or a blue ocean?
Over the years, there's been plenty of protests. The most visible came in the form of Mr. Floaty.
I got the idea after seeing a cartoon, Mr. Hanky on South Park.
Mr. Hanky?
Into the Strait of Wanda Poopa?
thought, yeah, that's what we need, a big walking, talking, dancing piece of poo.
To really illustrate the point.
Yeah, for sure. You can't ignore a 7-foot-tall turd.
Mr. Floaty got a lot of publicity, becoming a source of embarrassment, a walking representation of what environmental groups had been arguing for years.
Our beautiful ocean is not a big magical toilet where everything disappears.
A local diver took this video showing sediment on kelp, arguing this was the result of the untreated sewage. But many scientists see it much differently.
There is no good science that supports the need for this plant now.
Tom Peterson says scientists don't normally advocate for dumping untreated wastewater into the ocean, but says this area is unique because the fast-flowing currents naturally process the organic material. It's pumped through pipes that run more than 1 kilometer offshore and 50 meters below the surface.
If the science wasn't there to support this, why do you think the politics were what they were?
The politicians respond to public pressure, and the public pressure was mounting because people have a natural aversion to the sense that we're putting poop in the ocean. And, you know, we call it the ick factor.
After years of all the discussion, it was mostly settled in 2012 because the federal government introduced new regulations requiring Victoria to treat its wastewater by 2020.
Yes, it's been contentious, but now that we have a project that's nearly finished, we haven't had that debate any longer. It is now a matter of we are going to have treatment as opposed to what we've been doing for the last 50 plus years.
Whether residents think it's overdue or not even necessary, when the plant is complete next year, it will be a relief to everyone weary of all the talk over wastewater. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Esquimalt, BC.
Funny, I found it hard to focus during that story. I'm not sure why. The moment is coming up right after the break. First, though, we want to tell you about what you'll see this week on The National. Starting tomorrow night, Terrence McKenna kicks off an in-depth look at gun violence in this country.
Every day, ambulances race through the streets of Toronto with gun victims.
10-9 to Sunnybrook on a C-test warning.
Over 600 last year.
Done with guns!
In this series, you will meet doctors, community workers, police officers struggling to deal with an epidemic of violence. We will look at how illegal guns are smuggled into Canada and hear the debate about gun control proposals now being considered by the federal government.
So that is the infamous AR-15 rifle.
On one side, a massacre survivor trying to ban assault weapons.
When a weapon allows a perpetrator to kill dozens of people in a matter of minutes, that gun should not be allowed in private hands.
On the other, a longtime member of parliament who entered politics to fight gun control.
Their goal is ultimately to take guns out of people's hands. They're making us law-abiding people feel like criminals.
The Gun Debate, a special series, begins this week on The National.
Well, it is a tribute to history and the Winnipeg woman who wrote about it. A book called Paper Girl, penned decades ago about the Winnipeg general strike. It's finally seeing the light of day. It's called Paper Girl, and it was Melinda McCracken's first attempt at fiction. It is a story about a little girl tasked with selling the strikers paper, but it went unpublished until her daughter Molly dug the manuscript out of the archives, and tonight's moment is her moment of honoring her mother.
I remember her reading her poetry at the Blue Note Cafe when it was on Main Street when I was 16 years old, and I understood for the first time that my mother was not just my mother, but a talented, creative force in the world with important things to say.
She was prolific. She did a lot of different writing, and then it wasn't published, and she just moved on and worked on other work. I remember her writing it when I was a girl. I was about 7, 8 years old, and I remember her talking to my grandmother a lot just about what life was like during that time. You know, she's just right there with you again, and to have my grandmother's elements, and then the main character, the protagonist, is named after my great-great-aunt, so there's real connection to our family. It just feels good to know that she's being appreciated even 17 years after she died.
Yeah, it's so very personal. If you saw some of those pictures of the people in the crowd, those were handpicked people. A lot of them knew Molly's mom. She's an only child. And so for her, you know, it's not just a historical record, but it's a chance to sort of feel like she's in the room with her mom again.
Sure, yeah, and it would have been very interesting to be in that room, right? Because I, like a lot of people, remember learning about the Winnipeg General Strike in school, and to be perfectly honest, I haven't given it a whole lot of thought since. But even like 100 years later, to think that there's still some new thread to be pulled out of that, right? I mean, it's a fictional account, but still, that's fascinating. That's just kind of cool. That's The National for this May 5th. Have a great night.
Good night.